March 4th, 1997. A Tuesday, but not just any Tuesday. It was Turok Tuesday. The day that Turok hit retailers' shelves and rocked the gaming world with its limit breaks on the N64 system. A commercial and critical success, Turok pushed the boundaries of what games could deliver and set a precedent for consumers to look forward to in the gaming space for years to come. But what exactly was Turok Dinosaur Hunter? What is the story? What is the significance of this at-one-time smash hit? As we get closer to the looming new entry in the Turok series, the first in over a decade, Turok Origins. Let's first take a look back at where Turok began. No, not that far back. With the games. Now, over the course of this video, we will be playing through the game, discussing its mechanics and its design. We will be obtaining the mythical Chrono Scepter secret weapon, and we will be answering the age-old question: is there actually a story in Turok Dinosaur Hunter? Now, just one last note before we begin. We are going to hammer on level 1 quite a bit, because a lot of what we will look at is applicable across the entire game. So just letting you know, level 1 will be a bit lengthy. Here we go! Level 1. The Hub. The level starts and your path is very clearly laid out. However, Turok is a game in which it doesn't explain how to play. There are no tutorials. You just get thrown into the world and the game starts. The level design draws our eyes straight ahead, but when we look around we see some power triangles, more colloquially known as Doritos. Little triangles that will grant you more lives once you collect 100 of them. And what looks to be a handgun on a ledge above us. How do we reach that? By running around and falling off the bridge, we learn that there are swimming mechanics. And while swimming, we know now that we can use our knife underwater. We also find some clips in one alcove and a cave entrance on the other side of the starting area. Following the cave up and out of the water, and look at that! There's that pistol! See, one of Turok's greatest strengths is in its encouragement of exploration, with secret areas and goodies to be found, including a secret powerful weapon that you can build over the course of the game. But more on that later. Proceeding forward, we meet our first enemy, and left-clicking fires our new gun, and the enemy very quickly goes down. Entering a room with a floating object on an altar, we then find our first key item. A key. And then, stepping on a nearby stone platform makes one set of barriers disappear, opening a new path forward. Still no explanation or tutorial, but I do have a pretty good idea of how this game is going to go, just from this starting area. Find ammo, collectibles, and keys while solving the occasional puzzle and searching for secrets to progress and power ourselves up. See, Turok is from the time when games favored intrinsic motivation over extrinsic instruction. That is to say, instead of forcing the player to read through a forced tutorial, Turok allows the player a small space to interact with all of the main mechanics naturally that they will be using in the game from start to finish. There is also a full-on tutorial mode that I kind of forgot about until after I was already editing the video, so you can access that from the main menu. Next up, our first mob room, and there are dinosaurs to deal with now, along with both melee and ranged enemies. We take care of all the enemies while picking up both gold and purple Doritos, both having different values towards your life meter, before grabbing the second key. The next room has some grenade enemies and a warthog. If you do attack the warthog, it doesn't become hostile though. It does drop health pickups each time that it is hit, showing us that if we need health we can hunt for some HP, so to speak. Up in the air, we then jump off of a ramp and grab a shotgun before we turn to see a blue blobby portal floating nearby. We jump through and we enter into our first challenge room. A pit of electric water and multiple levels of platforming with enemies, but clearing the room allows us to pick up a backpack and some health and ammo items. The backpack increasing the amount of ammo that we can carry. Back on the real map, we then jump through another portal and meet our first bit of progression-based platforming, with a safe fall down into some blue water in case we mess up. This leads to our first checkpoint gate in a large gap with a climbable wall on the other side. Once climbed, we then pick up some tech arrows. These are explosive-tipped arrows, and a large enemy called a purlin drops down and starts attacking us with some shockwaves. We shoot it with our new arrows, and they are very, very strong. The next room has 3 enemies, a lava pit, and 3 lowered platforms. I wonder what we need to do. And after we take out the first enemy near us, one of the platforms begins to raise. This pattern then continues until all 3 are down and all pillars are up. Again, Turok is a game that will show you how to do things by making you do them and experiment around them in order to progress. We then enter a portal and find ourselves back in the starting room, but now the other gates are opening. We pick up some explosive rounds for the shotgun and test them out, one-shotting the gun enemies in the next room before jumping into the platform and grabbing our next key. After grabbing the key, we then see a bright beam of light off to the side, and when we look, there is a new enemy that has spawned in. So now we know that even if we clear a room, if we do spend too much time in it, the game will spawn new enemies, keeping pressure on somewhat. Here we also look at our pause menu and see keys, and learn that we can track how many keys we grabbed in a level, and that there are 8 levels. Proceeding on, we get jumped by another purlin, but we jump to the climbing wall and escape it. When we look back down, we see that another enemy has spawned and that the human enemy and the purlin are now fighting each other. See, the AI aren't all out to get just us, and they will, if left to their own devices, be hostile towards each other. This isn't really that important to note, as you won't see it that often, or at least I didn't see it that often, and this was like the only time I could remember it happening, so keep it in mind. We then enter into some caves and get introduced to the next enemy type, a frog-like reptile that leaps around in confusing patterns. Go on, take a chance and guess at what its name is. Did you guess Leaper? Good job. And the cave is crawling with smaller yellow ones and one larger red one. We also pick up more Doritos, and once we pick up 100, we get an extra life, with Talset exclaiming that,
I am Turok!
So remember, if you ever feel like you need a little pick-me-up, just go and eat 100 Doritos as quickly as you can, and you'll feel right as rain, I promise. Through the next portal, and we drop down into a larger area filled with raptors and both melee and ranged enemies once again. But this is where we find our first power-up. Some kind of symbol on a rotating disc with an eagle feather is floating around, and when we grab it, everything but us slows down, and the screen gets really colorful, allowing us to zip around and dispatch everything while we make our way to the next portal. The next room introduces us to the beetles. No, not the music group. The large insects that swarm after you, and while aren't deadly on their own, in a large group can be a problem. They are easy to outmaneuver though, so you really could just ignore them and save the ammo. We find the next portal and get bamfed into a circular labyrinth. The circle maze is the first place where in the game the map will become very handy, as zipping around and firing at enemies might disorient the player a bit, so you can keep easier track of where you haven't been if you use the map. We also find our first secret area here and pick up a piece of something called the Chronoscepter. That will be important later. We pick up the next key, leaving only one left in the level, and we teleport out to the next area. We climb a few ladders, get some ammo, and test out the assault rifle, which we learn uses the same ammo as the handgun, but fires in 3-round bursts. Dropping down into the next cave, we then get swarmed by beetles, which by now I'm just picturing the scarabs from the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie. However, while spamming jump to get away from them, something strange happens. After jumping to get into the water, what ends up happening is we keep jumping and make it to the other platform. Now, I know that you can swim here, so why didn't we sink? After killing some of the beetles, I tried to replicate what just happened by spamming jump and only got it to work one more time. But I guess the water's surface counts as a solid plane until you change state from stand to swim or something, and if you jump at just the right timing, you can skip across water surfaces, but the timing window is pretty tight, which is really cool movement tech, if nothing else. Anyways, we proceed on with some pillar platforming before spotting another secret portal and enter into a death trap room filled with health pickups and Doritos, as well as a super health pickup, which raises our HP to 250. After the secret room, we grab the last key before teleporting out. Now in the last room, we meet yet another new enemy type, a Perlin with a large blaster weapon. So we strafe shoot while jumping until he is dead, and then we proceed onwards to the hub. See, level 1 is done, but we are now at the hub, the central location that is definitely not filled with stargates, where we use the keys we find in the levels to open up, okay, they're stargates, to the other levels. Currently, we can only access levels 2 and 3, the jungle or the ancient city, so we proceed chronologically. But before we get to that, let's just recap what Turok has done during our journey through level 1. Without stopping the player from the time they hit start, the levels are designed with through lines that guide the player in the right direction, while also leaving little visual cues for the player to spot secret areas. Each enemy type is introduced first by itself, and then in larger, more dangerous scenarios, and platforming is required to progress, while level 1 uses safe areas for the player to get accustomed to it before the game gets serious, and we now know how different ammo types and weapons work on the enemies as we go forward. We'll see levels take on wild degrees of design now that the player has experienced all of the main mechanics of the game in level 1. Moving on. Level 2. The Jungle. The jungle starts out with some minor platforming for some extra ammo to fill our pockets. There are lots of raptors and soldiers around here. That is, until we get to the water section, where the map shows the water section continues past the land area, and we dive on down to investigate, finding a tunnel that leads to the first stage key in the process. Continuing on, we find an area where we jump across some pillars and try to shoot a soldier. But for some reason, the hitbox of the building or the pillar itself blocks our shots, so we have to clear the gap to finish the fight. Further in, we then find a large climbing wall, and after getting all the way up to the top, we make 2 high falls and land on a second piece of the Chronoscepter. Convenient! We run past some more dinos and small mobs before dropping down to a ledge and blitzing past some beetles for the second key and hitting the next teleporter. See, the jungle level likes to play with verticality. A lot. And hides the paths to keys and secret caches with gap jumps. So we zip through the rockfall section, which only ever hits the enemies with its timing, but then we run face first into a spike trap. That's the way things go here in the Lost Lands. Or so seems to be the case for me. And so we run up to the top of the mountain and take out some more enemies, finding the auto shotgun and a suit of tech armor after that, which it stops all damage until the armor is used up, as one would expect. We hit the next teleporter, which, by the way, that phrase will get old by the time this video ends, as Turok's levels are small collections of rooms large and small, separated into clusters traversable by teleportation in every level. So, when you see a teleporter, you know you are at the end of that cluster, in most cases. We grab the last key and hit the Stargate back to the hub, and oh, wait. We got all 3 keys, but 1 was for level 5 and 2 were for level 4. Which means the only level we can choose to go to right now is level 3, the ancient city. See, Turok allows for multiple levels to be accessed at a time, but splits the level keys up between the active levels so as not to overwhelm the player with the later stage's difficulty spikes, which is rather smart progression design. Level 3. The Ancient City. The Ancient City stands out among the intro levels for a few reasons. The first thing you will most likely notice is the music. See, a straight banger comes drumming in for about 20 seconds, and then you will realize that it just loops. At least on the N64 music setting, that is. So I hope you really vibe with the beat, because it's all you're going to hear for quite a bit. As for the level itself, we start with a large ascent of a temple and get introduced to a new enemy, the Ancient Warriors. Crack shots with a blowgun and quite the beefy boys with their spear, axe, staff things. These guys will be heavily present throughout this level and can take quite a few shots to put down. However, their game guide description states that they are easy prey to a shotgun round. Thanks, game guide. We will definitely use our assault rifle to deal with these guys. Good advice! After climbing the temple and dealing with the first of the new enemies, we then venture up to an open temple area with a lot of alleys and multi-tiered buildings to traverse and find ammo, armor, and Doritos before moving on. Climbing to the top of the temple, we have a few buildings with blocked off cages and 2 side areas. So we first head to the left walkway and grab a key before then taking the right walkway to deal with a timed gate puzzle and finding a portal, having to deal with a few purlins along the way. And once in the new area, we run around collecting some ammo before ascending the small temple steps and jumping across some pillars to the next area. Hitting the checkpoint, we see a cannon purlin spawn in, and after dealing with the big brute, we hit a switch and enter into a secret area with a quick teleporter that takes us back to the top. No more pillar jumping for us! Ha ha! Back up top, we see the next hurdle. More pillar jumping for us. Yay. But this time, it is a full platforming section with a death drop if you fall, so be careful. This section isn't that bad if you have gotten used to the jumping mechanics. Remember that strafe jumping is easier to control and jumps further than jumping straight ahead. This is an intended mechanic, not just a quirk. After jumping a few blocks, a soldier falls from the sky onto the platform in front of us and starts blasting at us. Be careful of this, because if you jump to a platform where an enemy will spawn, they will push you right off to your death. So we hit the central platform with a Stargate, and since there is no fall damage in this game, we drop all the way to the back of the temple and collect some supplies, riding an elevator all the way back up. While rising, we spot a climbing wall and decide to go see where that leads. And after overshooting the jump not once, but twice, at the top of the wall, we find our next secret area, and with it, our third Chronoscepter piece. We then head back down to the Stargate and get teleported to our first boss room. Or at least, what really looks like a boss room. It is a boss room, and our first boss is a military Humvee. Well, not really, because after we deal with the car, the real boss is really a second car. Okay, hold on, wait. We beat the second Humvee, and finally we go to deal with the first boss, the Long Hunter. The Long Hunter is not super difficult, however, especially with all of the minigun ammo laying around the arena. But if you let him get in close, he's going to hit you with more force than 2 Humvees combined. So the best strategy to deal with the Long Hunter is to strafe around, keeping him in your line of fire, while also backing up away from him. Before long, the car salesman goes down and we collect our reward, which is another key. So back to the hub we go, and it's time to unlock the next couple of gates. We're missing a key. We're missing a key. This moment should remind us to always check our key collection before we jump through big blue bubbles. So we have to go back to level 3, and yes, that does in fact mean starting from the beginning of the level. The good thing, though, is that everything that we have already accomplished stays done. So we speed our way back up and go grab the last key from the small area that we didn't explore the last time. Some more bunny hopping, and we are now ready for level 4, the ruins. Level 4, the ruins. Level 4 is where the important items in Turok start appearing, and namely, level 8 keys. The final level of Turok needs a total of 5 keys to get unlocked, and they are spread out over the levels of 4 through 7. The first of these in-level keys appearing if you take a hidden path at the start of level 4 and making your way through Platform Canyon. After grabbing level 8's key piece, now we get to actually start level 4. I am still upset that there was no waterfall cave though. I mean, come on, that's game design 101, guys. We then proceed across the bridge to a large open area, and I cannot stress this enough. Level 4 is where Turok stops feeling small, if it did, to feeling gargantuan in its level layouts. Routes will loop back in on themselves, previous areas will get connected to each other, teleporters no longer signal a divide in level cluster, now they themselves are parts of puzzles and fast travel to areas in the same cluster that you need to use. Anyways, we move into the ruins and meet our next two new enemies. A spiky little angry boy that I for the life of me can't figure out what dinosaur it's supposed to be, and I know a dino or two. Like the egregious depiction of the Therizinosaurus in Dino Crisis. That's right, I haven't let you off the hook for that one yet, Capcom. Moving on, there's also the shaman enemy that casts magic missile at you from long distance. We deal with some mobs and find a save point, and also stumble out onto an invisible magical Bifrosty bridge. That leads us to a new weapon, the grenade launcher. A powerful weapon capable of using those grenades we've been picking up. Be careful though, you might blow yourself up if you use it at close range. We have 4 levels in, and Turok is continuing to add layer upon layer to their level design instead of stagnate. Next up, we proceed through a mini-maze, blasting anything in our way and grab the next key out of a swinging pendulum pit before heading back to the starting area. On the way back, we discover a grate, and down below there appears to be a new weapon or something floating around. But I can't find an entrance, so we might come back here later. We head back and drop off our keys at the hub before jumping back into the ruins and entering the large temple, where we see statues of each enemy we've fought so far, with the exception of the alien bug-looking thing. Curious. Ah, it was a trap, I see. Pushing the switch makes them all attack me, I got you. I like it. The plasma rifle is strong enough to auto-fire into the crowd, and before long the ambush is thwarted as well as the way forward being opened. We then deal with a few shamans before grabbing the last key and getting teleported back to the hub. We drop off the keys and then we go check out the one thing we didn't look at in level 4. The teleporter puzzle. And so, after nearly burning to death many times, we found the right teleporter and wound up in the secret area, first dealing with some mobs and fire traps, then dealing with a platform puzzle. Oh, Turok, you with your platforming. We finally make it to the end, and the teleporter brings us to the Stargate. Huh. Maybe we missed something. We missed something! We ran right by the door multiple times. Well, after finally making it to the secret chamber, we climb to the top and see the scepter piece floating above the tower, as well as 4 dark lizard creature statues. Ah, we've seen this one before, game. Jump on the platform and the statues come to life. So we grab the scepter piece and run around shooting lizards for a while. Now, level 4 is 100% complete. So, it's time for level 5. The catacombs. Yay. Level 5. The catacombs. All of the levels up to this point have felt a bit samey. They've all used the same tile sets and assets, so let's see if level 5 changes it up after the halfway point of the game. Okay, we asked for something different, and Turok gave us something different. There are no new enemies this time around, but if level 4 is gargantuan in size, level 5 is labyrinthian in depth. If it is your first time playing Turok, expect to be stuck here for a minute, and you better use your map. Hidden passageways, door switches, crawl spaces, you name it, level 5 has it in spades. It took 20 minutes to find our first key, and we got turned around a lot in that time. Now, the other thing about level 5 here is that there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of fire traps and boiling oil pits to watch out for. The catacombs are also just packed with enemies, most of which are the skeletal warriors and shamans, but the leapers, the purlins, and the beetles are also found within the halls. The only downside to level 5 is that its layout is so crisscrossed that I stopped caring about the catacombs as a level and started just holding my breath at every door, hoping that the level would soon end. There's only one elaborate puzzle here, and it's more of a meat grinder than anything, really. where you need to find and flip 3 switches to raise some platforms to get to the next higher level in an area, but to get to the end. But there are 4 chambers of locked doors preventing you from reaching the second and third switches. So you open the first chamber, 2 side chambers open up into tunnels that you then need to navigate to flip a switch to open the next chamber, leading to more tunnels, and, well, you get the point. Of note, we do find another key to level 8 here, and we also stumble onto a new weapon. The Shockwave Cannon. And boy, is it fun to watch go off. Anyways, we get the keys, and then we find the Stargate room and enter the Big Bubbly to find our next boss. Mantis. The Mantis fight is actually pretty cool and challenging to a degree compared to the Long Hunter boss earlier. Mantis is not the fastest when walking around or when flying, but if it hits you, it definitely packs a punch. Additionally, Mantis will spew out acid in pools all over the arena, and it will eventually just start bouncing off of the walls and destroying them when taking enough damage. Continue pumping rounds into Mantis while dodging its attacks, and it will start flying around and launching explosive things at you from the ceiling before quickly jumping in for some melee strikes. If you dodge enough and don't let up on the damage, Mantis will go down before too long, allowing Talset to claim the next level 8 key and teleport back to the hub. Once back at the hub, we put our keys into the Stargate, and we brace ourselves to go back and find the hidden Chronoceptor piece that we missed while in the catacombs. As it turns out, we just ran right by the little tiny crawl space that we needed to go through to get to the secret room. Super quick and easy grab after dealing with the Super Saiyan Shaman down in the sewer area. Now on to Treetop Village. Level 6. Treetop Village. Alright, Treetop Village. Back into the jungles. And they flipped the script on us this time. Right from the start, level 6 has platforming and shooting galleries, but this time, instead of climbing, we must descend the mountain. Sometimes to platforms just barely above the view distance cap below us. So, after pogoing our way down and shimmying across some narrow walkways, we get to a teleporter pad and into the next area. Down on the ground floor, we find a water section, and oh look! Those alien bugs are here, like the one from the temple earlier. We go for a little swim, and in one of the alcoves we discover a new weapon, aptly titled Alien Weapon. And it looks like it fires BFG shots from Doom, so I really want to test this out because I don't remember exactly using it a whole lot when I last played the game, however long ago. I want to take just a brief pause here while we swim around and look for some other secrets and just say, I miss games like this. Everything now just feels like they are made complicated to be complicated, and it requires serious investment to even try to get into a game these days. Turok is a fast-paced arcade shooter with secret areas and loads of bullets flying everywhere. It's fast, it's fun, and you don't need to read a wiki or have a PhD to figure out how to play it. I don't know. I guess what I'm really saying is Turok has filled a bit of a void that most games released in the last decade just haven't for me. And I'm having a blast playing through the game again all these years later. Anyways, just a quick little aside here, but we'll get back to the game now. The Treetop Village section of level 6 is really fun. There are a few annoyances that show up here, however. First off, your movement. Arguably the best part of your arsenal gets reduced. Tiny bridges and railless platforms will be the end of you if you aren't on the ball with your spatial awareness, as well as this level's verticality with the spiral staircases. If the movement of Turok doesn't give you motion sickness, then I hope that going up the stairways in this level doesn't either, because it's kind of painful to watch. Enemies are heavily packed in here also, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but with your movement being restricted as it is, it gets to be a bit tough here. So you need to watch your footing without falling off the platforms, and you need to be on point with your gunplay as well. The idea of all of these interconnected buildings in the tops of the broccoli trees is a cool idea though. And as we started high and swooped low, we've risen back to the peak of the skybox all in the span of one level. All that's left now is to go back in and find the Chronoceptor piece, now that all of the keys have been grabbed. And as it turns out, the Chronoceptor piece was right at the end of the level. by the Stargate, so that was a full replay for that. Level 7, The Lost Lands. The Lost Lands, a relatively shorter level in comparison to the previous two. However, level 7 is where every gimmick, except crawling, comes at you, as well as a slew of new large and in-charge enemies. The Lost Lands are a barren wasteland filled with death drops and pools of lava, as well as there being our friends the dinosaurs. Wait, does that raptor have a laser cannon? That's right, along with a Triceratops being introduced to us, the raptors are now cyber raptors and have been trained to use laser guns. The warrior and shaman enemy types also get a new look here in the wastes, being called demons now and having higher strength and HP. So, running along, we check for some secret areas, and in the process, we encounter a giant man-eating and pellet-shooting plant monster that is a pretty big bullet sponge. Everything here in the Lost Lands is trying to kill you, including the flora. We continue running around and we see a weapon floating on a corner platform, and making our way around to it, we find the rocket launcher. We hit a point where the way forward isn't very clear to us, but we do see a bridge that we might be able to jump to if we angle it just right. So we get a run up and we jump, making it. Nice. And getting access to the next area and dealing with a moving pillar platforming section nets us with the first of the two keys of this level. Once out of the portals, we see a large metal structure in the distance, and hitting the next teleporter takes us onto a large bridge just outside of that metal fortress. And look, there are those aliens again. The fortress is a stark difference to anything we've seen this far. It is crawling with aliens, defense turrets, giant mechs, raptors with blasters, and warriors, or demons, or whatever we're calling them now. But we make it to the top, spotting a hidden platform and nabbing us another piece of the Chronoscepter. This thing better be worth it for spending the time to find all of these pieces. We finish up the next bit and hit the portal, getting sent back to the hub, one key short yet again. We most likely got turned around or didn't find a small area in the wasteland portion of level 7, so we go back in. It turns out that the key was in a hidden passage that we needed to backtrack to find. So, we grab the last level 8 key, and putting it in the hole, we get to ride the tunnel down, and level 8 begins immediately. Level 7 doesn't have much in the sense of grand realizations. It's just a level that will throw out a lot of high-powered enemies at you and ask you to be daring with its secrets, which, by this point, we are locked in on the maneuvering and combat portion. The secret areas are becoming a bit more convoluted in their locations, though. Level 8. The Final Confrontation. Level 8. The War, the World, the Final Confrontation, not to be confused with the Europe song. This level starts immediately after you put the last key in the slot on the hub pedestal, and right away we are thrown into a large open arena complete with mecha, robo-raptors, aliens, and machine gun turrets on the fortification walls to deal with. Run, gun, and rocket your way through to find a hole in the wall leading to tunnels that are now crawling with robo-warriors. Because the demons were only around for one level, and with laser rifles and stun batons. They are pretty much the same as the regular warriors, but now we are in the campaigner's fortress, so we get another reskin. Right off the rip on level 8, you should be throwing your guns to full usage, because there are a lot of enemies and ammo is expendable, while you... Okay, you kind of are too, but the point is you should not consider yourself expendable, so let's go Turok. First off, if you remember how sprawling and claustrophobic that level 5 felt, well, dial that up to 11, because as soon as you finish in the arena, you are diving into a dungeon crawl of tight corridors, elevators, multiple storied rooms and tunnels, anti-gravity wells. It would be faster for me to tell you what level 8 doesn't have, which are the basic soldier enemies from earlier. Oh, wait, never mind. It has those too. Level 8 is, in a word, hectic, and the level isn't filled with any puzzles. It's just pure run and gun, and you better be comfortable using everything you have, because there's a lot of resistance here. We even still get a brand new enemy this late in the game. The sewer octoquid crabs. Oh, no, they're just called sludge bees, my bad. Moving on. Anyways, we fight our way through the fortress and enter into the boss chamber, expecting to come face to face with the campaigner. But, oh no! It's a trap! The campaigner had one last ace up his sleeve to stop us. The floor opens up and an elevator shuttles Thunder, the mighty T-Rex, into the arena. Thunder is a beast, has a massive health pool, and hits like a freight train that's run off its tracks, whose sole purpose is to run you down if you let him catch you. I wonder why that sounds familiar. Now, one thing about the arena as we are unloading into this overgrown lizard is that the arena has deuce floors, the ground floor and a thin catwalk that spans the entire edge of the room that puts us just at Thunder's height and has ammo for us, so even if you try to run away up top, Thunder can still get you and chomp your little tootsies off. We haven't really used the fusion cannon much, and we have full ammo for it, so a couple of mini nukes later and Thunder is in some real pain. We bust out the shotgun and pump a few more rounds into the overgrown biting toaster to put it out of commission, and after Thunder goes down, we get teleported to a save room, and the final piece of the Chronoscepter is floating nearby. In the campaigner's fortress. We'll come back to this. Finally, all 8 pieces come together, and we get a cool new spinny shiny staff. We'll have to see what it does in a tiny bit. We quickly run down the tunnel ahead of us that is packed full of ammo for every weapon that we have, and we emerge out onto an open arena and confront the tyrannical cyborg, the campaigner. We open with a blast from the Chronoscepter, but I think I might have missed him and only hit him with splash damage. But the campaigner is quick, you see. He has a force field and jumps really, really high, as well as just teleporting around the map constantly. As long as you don't stop moving, you should be fine, but you will inevitably be taking a couple of hits from the Robo-Man. Burn through minigun rounds, shotgun shells, the shockwave cannon, and more while dodging his attacks left and right, and eventually we get him down to low health. When his health is low, it's time to pull out the Chronoscepter, and let the staff he wanted so badly to tear him a new one right between his space and time. After the Robo-Tyrant falls, his fortress begins to self-destruct, and we are shown a scene of Talset running through tunnels ahead of a fiery cascade before getting launched out into a lake below the fortress. With our mission now complete, Talset takes the Chronoscepter and leaves, and we watch the credits roll to the backdrop of the fortress burning. So, here we are at the end of the video. Oh, wait, hold on, that's right. We need to actually talk about the story and the mechanics and actually kind of review the game. And what do we think about Turok? Or actually, how about a better question? What happened in Turok? Why did we do anything? See, the claim that Acclaim makes is that the tie-in comic that can be found inside of the game booklet for the Nintendo 64 will help shed light onto why things are happening in the game. And after reading it, I can confidently say, no, it doesn't. We'll cover it in just a minute, but the actual only story tie-in for Turok is the forward introduction paragraph in the N64 player's guide, or the player booklet, which is one paragraph that reads as follows. Prepare yourself, because this is the only point of story and plot that Turok has. The Lost Land, a world where time has no meaning, and evil knows no bounds. Torn from a world long ago, the time-traveling warrior Turok has found himself thrust into a savage land torn by conflict. An evil overlord known as the Campaigner seeks to shred the fabric of time and rule the universe using an ancient artifact known as the Chronoscepter. The Chronoscepter was shattered thousands of years ago in an effort to keep it from falling into evil hands. The Campaigner has constructed a massive focusing array, which he plans to use to magnify and pervert the power of the Chronoscepter in order to shatter the barriers between the ages and rule the universe. Turok has vowed to find the 8 pieces of the Chronoscepter spread throughout the Lost Land and put an end to the Campaigner's evil plot. The Campaigner has amassed a terrifying army to stop him. Turok must face not only ferocious velociraptors, but vile aliens and other terrifying beasts, all bent on scorching him from the face of the earth. The first rule of survival is know thy enemy, but the second edict, know thyself, assumes greater importance as Turok struggles to understand the fatal forces that have brought him here and what he must do in order to meet the ever-escalating threats that lurk wherever he looks. To learn more, you must enter the world of Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Now, that's all well and good. It sets up the idea that the campaigner wants to use the Chronoceptor to tear open the fabric of space-time for something, to rule the universe, but it's not clear on how or why, and Turok is here to stop him. Cool. So, the issue I have with this, one issue, is that the Chronoceptor is just the secret weapon. It's an optional weapon to get. You don't have to hunt the pieces down. They're in secret areas. And the storyline is supposed to be that you are finding the pieces to rebuild the Chronoceptor faster than the campaigner is, but the campaigner still holds one piece. But even if you don't pick any up, he still only has one piece, so he's really not good at his job. The second and the more egregious part of this entire introduction paragraph is the final sentence. To learn more, you must enter the world of Turok Dinosaur Hunter. When entering the world of Turok Dinosaur Hunter, the game, there's no further information. And the tie-in comics don't explain anything around the game. This introduction is the only point of reference for the campaigner outside of a cameo appearance in the tie-in comic in the back of the book. That is, boiling it down to its base level, just the delivery vessel for an old Abbott and Costello joke. Acclaim will go on to make story the forefront of Turok in the later installments, for better and for worse. But Turok 1's story is just in this one paragraph, and that leaves the entire focus on the gameplay. And the gameplay is good. The game made movement feel good. From running and gunning to strafe jumping for better maneuverability and using verticality in its levels to make the player utilize all of their ability and movement to their advantage and for progression, movement just feels good in Turok. The game's soundtrack features pounding drum beats and ambient synth and bass lines that will have you feeling like you are the star of an old 80s action movie set in an industrial jungle. Thanks Darren Mitchell, I'll never get Jungle City out of my head. The game features an expansive arsenal of weapons that all have pros and cons when dealing with different enemies, and you will develop your own playstyle with the ones you like and dislike. Speaking of enemies, the enemy roster is actually pretty wide for the time that this game came out, but it's a little lackluster comparatively by today's standards. The story parts of the game, as we've already stated, is its weakest, but for a revival and for bringing Turok back into the media spotlight of the time, getting a game and a new line of comic adaptations was pretty huge and it paid off. Turok went on to spawn 2 sequels and 1 prequel? Non-canon thing? Look, Evolution was a really rough game and it was a shame that the IP ended there. No, don't bring it up. That IP ended at Evolution. The tie-in comics are really well made for the 96 run of Valiant's Turok Dinosaur Hunter, adding some extra story around Talset as a character, and not just as Turok, son of Stone, who you play as in Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Issue 00 particularly I thought was pretty good, as it is a condensed origin story for Talset that you can find in a couple of places should you be curious. Now, one strange point that I want to showcase is that Acclaim did something a little odd with T1, and it has to do with the cover art. In T1, we play as Talset, who looks like this. in-game and comics respectively. This is the cover for T1. Notice, this looks nothing like Tal said. But if we look at the tie-in comic in the back of the book, we see a different figure who this looks very much like. None other than Joshua Fireseed, main protagonist and the Turok of Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, a game that would be released the following year in 1998. So Acclaim were setting up Joshua as early as T1 before becoming a prominent figure in the following 2 games, which I thought that was a bit of a strange move, all things considered. But we will talk a bit more about that when we get to T2 later down the road. So, that's it really. Just a fun romp through a good old game for the day. And to close us out, though I can only judge on the game and not the extras, I will give Turok Dinosaur Hunter, the game, a
I am Turok.
out of 10. Friends, if you made it to the end of the video, then I just want to say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date on what we do around here. And lastly, since this video has gone on for long enough at this point, remember to take care of yourselves, and I'll see all of you again soon.